All right, here we are, hanging out. Mr. John Robert Quinn, the guy who builds talk shows coast to coast, creator of GRQ TV, hanging out with Mr. Lamar Simpson. And we're going to be talking about sheepdog defensive training. And there's a lot of things happening right now in our world. And it's funny because, I can't say it's funny, it's more of an analogy, right? But it's funny because, every time that we sit down and we talk about these, we talk about things that are happening in Texas or in Kentucky or in Connecticut or whatever. Right now things are happening in our backyards and we have to protect ourselves and be ready, and that's what this is all about. And it's funny because people have reached out to me this week and are like, hey, you guys do that firearm safety class, don't you? I'm like, yeah, give Lamar a call, he'll get you sorted out. We have to sit down and we have to think about, how are we going to protect ourselves? How are we going to protect our families? How are we going to protect our businesses? How are we going to protect our community? And a lot of things have been happening.
Yes, they sure have. And I think it's really good that you say, hey, we always hear things that happen. They happen in Texas, they happen in New York, they happen here. Part of the reason we have these things happening now is because we have that it doesn't happen to me attitude.
There was a lady that was shot in her front yard and by her boyfriend, and then he killed himself. That was maybe 3 to 6 months ago, whatever it was. And the father goes, I see these things on the news. I never thought it would happen in real life.
When news is real life, right? People aren't understanding that there's a disconnect between the fact that there are things happening and they can happen to you. We can walk out the door right now, there could be somebody running around with a gun.
Right. Well, not only that, we can walk outside and an airplane come crash on us. I mean, things are happening in this world.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like we were just talking before we started filming, the guy started running over people in his car.
Did you see what actually happened with that thing?
I didn't.
It was a road rage.
He got mad at one person
in a grocery store, and it just escalated, and
I guess to the point where it wasn't the person that made him mad originally. He just was mad at everything at that point.
He was mad at everything, and then a lady tried to save a guy, and then he turned around and ran her over too, and a concealed carry came and shot him.
Yep,
it ended everything.
Ended the problem.
Yeah,
right. So that's kind of the point of this whole thing is. You can, and again, we talk about the really sad incident that happened at House of Oliver. Great business. Guy has kept his business running. He's good to his people, his employees.
If you're not familiar, House of Oliver was the restaurant that stayed open during COVID. He refused to shut down. He stayed open. He fought all of the media. He fought the government. He fought everybody. He kept the business open, and then 2 days ago there was a tragedy. One of the servers, Vita's ex-fiance, comes in and shoots her, and it's disgusting in every sense. But
Absolutely.
Again, you don't want to become a statistic.
No,
and you have to start thinking about how you're going to protect yourself, your family, and your community.
Absolutely, and there's several levels to that. So, had she understood how to be more aware of her surroundings, could that have saved her? Maybe. We can count on police and law enforcement. They're great people. They're going to do whatever they can, but they can't be everywhere.
Not only can they not be everywhere, they are not in the business, so to speak, to be preventative. They are after the fact. When something happens, they come and they do what they need to do.
They're reactive. They get there when they need to get there. Unless they happen to be there to see a crime happen, then they're going to prevent it, right? They would love to be able to prevent it. There's not enough of them.
Yeah.
We have a next level where, I could have, let's say if you and I were having lunch at that place, I'm a concealed carry holder. I could have put a stop to the threat, right?
And I'm an angry biker.
But can you count on that? Can you count on you're going to have an angry biker and a CCW holder having lunch together at the time the person tries to hurt you?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So how do we take that into our own hands and we'll be a concealed carry ourselves, or we'll know how to react to these things. We'll know how to not be in the wrong place. I know she was working, but is there a way that she can?
It's the wrong place at the wrong
knows?
time, and there's a point of probability, and there's another thing that a friend of mine said. It was in one of my motorcycle shows, and he said, we all have shit to do the next day. So we all have a life. We all have plans. We all have things that are going to, that we want to do. But there are circumstances that can be prevented so we can actually do those things. And that's where sheepdog defensive training comes in helping people get certified, helping people become licensed and registered gun owners, helping people become skilled gun owners, familiar with the weapons.
Understanding what to do, make sure it's safe, make sure you can become a statistic by hurting yourself with your own firearm if you're not trained properly.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we're trying to do is, we have a bunch of different classes. We have the women's class has been very popular.
Yeah.
We're coming in there, we're teaching people waitresses can be part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can have your real estate agents, you can have nurses, all these different women who are in professions in this area who may encounter somebody who wants to hurt them. Maybe they're just creepy. I don't know. But there's ways to train yourself up to where you can get yourself out of a situation, and even that ultimately includes that you have to shoot somebody to do it. So we start there. We start with like a basic pistol class. You've been through that class before, and it's going to take you to that. Hey, I just opened a box. What is this thing? What do I do with it? To being pretty proficient.
Well, not only that, your lady self-defense and firearms is self-defense and firearms. This situation with Vita, could it have been prevented? In a sense, yes, it could have been prevented. There's a couple of things that could have happened. Number one, she could have known what to do in that situation.
Right.
He didn't just walk in and open fire. He walked in, there was an altercation, then he pulls a weapon, and then he fires.
Right.
So she could have diffused the situation initially. The other thing is there could have been people in the restaurant, whether they were eating, whether they were working, that had a firearm, carry conceal. They could have had that option, and they could have diffused the situation as well.
Right.
There are things that could have been done, and it is our responsibility. It is our responsibility as a human, as a member of our community, to not only protect ourselves and our families, but to protect our communities, because law enforcement cannot be everywhere at once.
Well, especially when you have a government that's trying to take some of their power away.
All of their power away.
Right.
The only thing that they've got, they don't want to sort out the mental health issue that we have here in America, because as soon as people start thinking clearly, they're not going to vote the way they want them to vote. So the only way to do that is to strip their weapons away so they can't do anything about it.
Yep, that's the big push, right? So they're trying to control us different ways. So the only thing to really do at this point is we have to go from, hey, it's a possibility something can happen to us like what happened, to it's a probability.
Well, again, we have car insurance, we have homeowners insurance, we have life insurance, because the only insurance you're going to actually use in your life is the life insurance.
Right.
And even then, you could let it lapse, and then you don't have life insurance.
Right.
But when you have this skill to protect yourself, your family, and your community, and if you've got that sidearm, if something were to happen, you could be there to help defuse that situation. Really,
the only way to stop people like this, like your driver, like the guy that came popping in, as we learned with the person with the driver, is a person, a good guy with a gun, as they say, or a good woman with a gun in this particular case, right? So if we start making it known that we're going to defend ourselves, we're going to arm ourselves, we're going to educate ourselves, we're going to do those things we learn properly, and then we defend ourselves, is it a little more likely that somebody who thinks about going in and shooting somebody in a public place may say, hey, there's a probability there could be 5, 7, 10 gun owners in there that are legally armed, and I'm not only going to have my crime that I want to commit stopped, I'm going to be dead.
Well, what about the fact that, because you do businesses and you do schools and you do churches and so forth, what if there was a business that publicly, they made it the information public that all of our employees are CCW holders, our building has weapons in it? I don't think somebody would walk into that business and try to shoot the place up.
Well, we've seen it all over. There's a high school in Indiana that spent over $4 million on their school security, including armed guards, including countermeasures, including video cameras. Anything. They actually have a live feed if something happens that they test once a month, that an officer can go on a camera and see what's happening remotely, just like that. Their sign, we've seen our sign saying, "Oh, this is a gun-free zone, no guns allowed on school premises." There says, "Look, there's armed security here. Any attempts to hurt children or staff will be met with deadly force." You know how many shootings they've had there? 0. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, they're serious.
Yeah,
they're very serious.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we don't have we have the proof that when we take that tack, we don't have violence against our children and anything else. And the funny thing to me is that many of the governments, especially if you look at the California government, we're 100% okay with protecting our politicians with firearms. 100% okay with protecting our banks and our gold and things like that with firearms.
Correct.
100% okay with all these things, but the greatest commodity we have is our children. I know you don't have children, I do. They're my greatest commodity.
I have a dog, and I tell you what, you mess with my dog, it's
same thing. We have dogs too. I'm with you on that. So why don't we protect our greatest? Why is it not okay to protect our greatest treasure with a firearm?
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
And not only that, teach our kids to
Teach them as
protect
well.
their parents, to protect, again, their community. Yeah, yeah.
As you know, my children are involved in shooting sports.
Yes,
and
they are.
They are
They're good.
proficient.
Yes, they are good.
I would say very proficient little girls. I mean, I shouldn't say little guys. One that turned 18 and not a little girl anymore, I guess. But
It's crazy.
time flies.
Yes, it does.
But I can tell you that she is confident. Now, do I want her in that situation? No.
Well, no, we never want to be.
But I would feel
the last thing we want to do is have to do that.
right.
It's a lot of paperwork.
It's not going to be a fun thing, right? So I mean, but really, what we need to do is there needs to be more people like that. Because right now, I mean, one of the reasons I started the women's, there's a few reasons I started the women's class first. I had a friend who was a nurse who was a kind of a victim of a stalker.
That's right. Yeah.
So
we talked about that.
she talked about having training to be able to learn and telling her friends, hey, this is some things that we can do. It's also having daughters, protecting my kids, knowing that one day they will leave and they'll be on their own. But it's very taboo still in this culture, which it really kind of confuses me, because when we talk about, I don't like to get super political of these things. When you talk about, Democrats, especially very liberal, there's this let's empower women. Everything they do takes power from women. So it's like, oh, your kids shoot, they're girls, they should be off wearing dresses. And I had a comment from my family that my wife's family, that my daughter, my 18-year-old, who runs her own nonprofit, has killer grades, shoots, second-degree black belt in Taekwondo, trains people, that she should probably go in the military so she can find a man. That was what her plan should be. So this is the way they look at things. I'm like, and that's just, I mean, it blew me away to even hear.
Yeah, that's like offensive. I've never met your kids, and I'm offended.
I'm like, that's horrible, right? So this is kind of what it is. And when you talk about the women's side of things, the ownership of firearms among women has gone up in the last 3 years, 425%. Participation by women and girls in shooting sports. It's so funny because I've gone riding with women before, and the women are the one protecting the men. They've got their guns in the saddlebag, and the guys are like, oh, whatever. She'll take care of it. So the other side is like girls and women. So girls is important because girls, like boys, are kids. That's where we learn early, right? We have over 4,000% increase of girls in shooting sports like trap, like rifle, like pistol, like archery. My girl's only 2 of those. I mean, imagine all the families that they're looking at this saying, hey, and this is leading to, hey, I can protect myself, hey, I can protect others.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need right now. We need somebody. Basically, we need to make these people out there. They are mentally deranged, as you said, and we're spending money.
It's mental illness. That's what all of this is. Every bit of this is mental illness. I have mental illness. You have mental illness.
Why is it mental illness, though? It's mental illness because they've been told that anything that they want to imagine is okay.
Well, no, it's also mental illness because instead of us sorting out our problems, we pump people full of drugs.
Well, there's that, and there's the second part of that is look at all the money that goes into gun legislation, different things like that, laws that are put into place, all these things that they create that cost you money.
Yeah.
How much would you, now, do you want to spend that money? Probably not, because when you draft a law for a law-abiding citizen, I mean, that's not going to change anything. So what happened yesterday is not going to change anything.
And the sad part about it is they're trying to figure out where this gentleman, JJ, where he got the gun. Right. Where did he get the gun? It wasn't his gun. Where did he get the gun? How do people get in contact with you, brother?
Well, they can get on our website. It's sheepdogdefensivetraining.net. That has all of our classes, all our descriptions. We're also on Facebook under the same name, or they can just give me a call, 916-548-5326. If you're an email type person, sheepdogdefensivetraining@gmail.com.
Sheepdogdefensivetraining.net. Take the class. I took the class. It's funny because you told me to shoot the circle in the middle. So I shot the circle in the middle. I did pretty good.
Yeah, you did very well.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching. Give these guys a call. And you know what? Again, I'm just going to close with this. It's not about politics. It's not about anything other than just protecting yourself and your community. It's really what it is. Hey, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.